Hello and welcome to one and all. In this class, we will check out the next question, the sectoral growth trade trends in the state of Telangana, which is in Unit 10, Telangana Economy. Okay, so this is also one of the 5 marks questions. So first, before moving on to the actual answer, let us see what is the meaning of sectoral contribution. So sectoral contribution is, see, there are 3 sectors, isn't it, in any country. The primary sector, which comprises of agriculture, that is crops, and allied activities like animal husbandry, fishery, forestry, logging. They all come under the category of primary sector. And secondary sector, all the manufacturing industries comprising of both small scale industries as well as the large scale industries, and electricity, gas, water supply, construction and mining, sometimes in primary sector, sometimes in secondary sector. And finally, the third sector, tertiary sector, which is also known as the service sector, which comprises of trade, hotels, transport, communications, power, storage, irrigation. So all those things comes under the category of tertiary sector or service sectors. So all the contributions made by each of these different sectors. So that is how we are arriving at the total national income. So that is the shares or contributions made by each of the 3 different sectors, that is primary, secondary and tertiary sectors, to the GSVA. Okay, now what is GSVA? See, first, before going to GSVA, now what is GDP? GDP is gross domestic product. So gross domestic product is for the entire economy, for the entire country. And GVA, the full form is the gross value added. See, both means the same, only the method of calculation, the terminology used is different. Okay, so the gross value added is also for the entire country. And GDP is equal to GVA, which is equal to the total national income of the country. So the total national income of the country is represented in different terms: GDP, GVA, NDP, NNP, all those different terms depending upon the method of calculation. Okay, so for the time being, the GDP, which is equal to GVA, that is equal to the total national income of the country. Okay, so now what is the national income? That is nothing but the total volume of goods and services produced in a country in a year, counted without duplication. So counted without duplication, there should not be any double counting. That is, one at the raw material stage, again at the intermediate stage, again at the final goods stage. It should not be double counting. So that's why we say counted without duplication. So this is the national income or GDP or GVA of the entire country. That is, what is the total volume of goods produced for the whole country. Now GSDP, the full form is gross state domestic product. So here we are taking into consideration the domestic product of only one particular state, that is the GSDP. Okay, the similarly GSVA is the gross state value added, that is for only one state. So GSDP is equal to GSVA, that is equal to the total income of one particular state, that is total state income. So similar to the national income, the state income is the total volume of goods and services produced within the boundaries of a particular state. Okay, so that is what is meant by state income. Okay, so the next, GDP, GVA is equal to national income. How we are arriving at the national income or the GDP or the GVA? That is nothing but the contributions made by all the 3 sectors. That is the contribution made by primary sector plus contribution made by the secondary sector and the contribution made by the tertiary sector of the entire economy. The contributions made by these 3 different sectors of all the states in the country. So that is the GDP or GVA, that is equal to national income. This is how we are arriving at the total output. Okay, so but if you take the GSDP or the GSVA, then it is only the contributions made by these 3 sectors, that is the primary, secondary and tertiary sectors, within the geographical boundaries of a particular state. So if you are taking the state of Telangana, what is the output, what is the contribution made by the primary sector of Telangana to the state income of Telangana? What is the contribution made by the secondary sector within Telangana to the state GSVA? And what is the contribution made by the tertiary sector of Telangana to the GVA of the Telangana state. So this is the GSVA of a particular state. So this is a contribution made by all these three sectors within the geographical boundaries of a particular state. Okay. Now what is the mean? This is about the contribution made by different sectors. Now what is the meaning of sectoral growth rate trends? Okay, the question is sectoral growth rate trends. So sectoral growth rate trends is nothing but how much each sectors, that is the primary, secondary and tertiary sector, output has changed. That is either it has increased or decreased over a period of time. Normally year after year it is being calculated. Compared to previous year, how much the output of primary sector has increased or decreased compared to previous year, how much output of secondary as well as the tertiary sectors either it has increased or decreased. So if it is growth means normally we assume that it is increasing, but it is not always like that. Okay, depending upon so many factors, the output of a particular sector might increase compared to the previous year or might decrease, that is the growth rate might decrease compared to the previous year, or it might become stagnant, so or it might even become negative, that is decrease. So year after year, what are all the changes that are happening in the each of these sectors? That is, when you check that over a period of time, then that is what is known as the sectoral growth rate trends. Okay, so as far as the Telangana economy, Telangana state is concerned, the Directorate of Economics and Statistics estimates the GSDP by using either the product method or the income method. So these are the two popular methods we are using. Of course, the third method, expenditure method, none of the countries are using. So it is measured either at the current prices or at the constant prices. So current prices, whatever the value of the output is estimated based on the prices prevailing at the current year. In constant prices, we are taking the base year prices, and based on that the value of the output is being estimated. So I think the first year you must have studied about the product method and income method, all those things in the measurement of national income. So as far as the Telangana economy is concerned, the Directorate of Economics and Statistics is responsible. As for the country as a whole is concerned, the Central Statistical Organization is estimating the national income. Okay, now what is the annual average sectoral growth rates of primary, secondary and tertiary sector? Current prices and constant prices. This is I have not taken the entire, just a couple of years. You can check the changes in the trends. Okay, so when you see the first column represent the year, the second column, what is the output produced in primary, secondary and tertiary sector measured at current prices, and the third one, the same thing, measured at constant prices. So you can see the 2012-13, the contribute in the primary sector growth rate happens to be 21.9%. So compared to previous year, okay, 21.9%. And secondary sector happens to be minus, it was in negative. That means what? It has decreased compared to the previous years. So it was minus 8.5, and tertiary sector, the growth rate happens to be 18.4. Okay. Now, if you check the same thing at constant prices, you can see the difference. Primary sector 2012-13, in current prices, it was 21.9% growth rate. But whereas when you check at the constant prices, it happens to be only 8.6. So that means what? So there is a lot of difference between 21.9 and 88.6. So that shows there is this value of 21.9% growth rate. That is because of only the rise in prices, but not because of the rise in the output. So current prices, because we are estimating the value of the output at whatever the prices prevailing at the current year, it will always reflect the increase in the price level. Okay, so that is the main problem with the current prices. So always the constant prices gives the accurate picture. Okay, so constant prices, since we are taking the base year prices, price level will remain constant. We will know exactly whether the output has increased or decreased. So constant prices, according to the constant prices, in 2012-13, the growth rate of primary sector happens to be 8.6%. And whereas the secondary sector, it become, instead of minus 8.5%, it was still worse at constant prices, it's minus 11.7%. And tertiary sector, you can see that instead of 18.4%, which is at the current prices, at constant prices it happens to be 8.4%. So you can see a lot of difference because current prices always reflects the price fluctuations. Okay, now moving on to 2015-16, primary sector at current prices, it has decreased from 21.9% to 2.2%, whereas at constant prices it has decreased from 8.6% to minus 4%. And secondary sector, from minus 8.5% negative growth rate, it has increased to 20.3%. And constant prices, it has increased from minus 11.7% to 21.4%. And tertiary sector at current prices, it has decreased from 18.4% to 15.3% in 2015-16. The same thing at constant prices, from 8.4% it has increased to 11.3%. Okay, now moving on to 2016-17. So primary sector, it increased from 2.2% in 2015-16. In 2016-17, it increased to as high as 17.1%, whereas the secondary sector, it has decreased from 20.3% to just 1.6%, and tertiary sector, it has slightly increased from 15.3% to 15.9%, whereas at constant prices, primary sector from minus 4% in 2015-16, it has increased to 10.3%, and secondary sector from 21.4%, it has the growth rate happens to be just 0.1%, and whereas the tertiary sector, just a very slight decrease from 11.3% to 11%. And finally, the last data, last year 2019-20. So 2019-20 also, it is showing a decrease compared to 2016-17 in primary sector. From 17.1%, it has decreased to 15.8%. Secondary sector, it has increased from 1.6% to 5.3%. And tertiary sector, it has slightly decreased from 15.9% to 14.1%. If you look at the constant prices, primary sector, it has increased slightly again from 10.3% to 10.7%. Secondary sector slightly increased from 0.1 to 1.7, and tertiary sector, it has decreased from 11.0 or 11% to 9.6%. So what are all the things you are information you are getting from this table? First thing, there is a lot of difference between the values between the current prices and the constant prices. So this, as I mentioned, current prices always reflects the changes in prices. So constant prices is more reliable because it reflects the changes in output rather than the changes in prices. Okay, that is one thing we are observing. And the another thing we are observing is, it is the growth rate is not continuous. The growth rate is not consistent. There are ups and downs in the growth rates of all the three sectors, both at the current prices as well as at the constant prices. So this is the observation we are getting by looking at the table. Okay, so this is the growth rate trends in the state of Telangana economy of all the three sectors. So finally, when you look at the conclusion of this growth rate trends, from the table we infer the data at current prices reflect the price fluctuations, and there are ups and downs in the growth rates of all sectors, both at current prices as well as at constant prices. So what is the final conclusion? It is a mixed trend. That is, it is not continuously it is growing, it is not continuously decreasing, it is not continuously it is becoming stagnant. So there is a mixed trend in the growth rate of all the three sectors, both at current prices as well as at the constant prices in the state of Telangana economy. So this is the conclusion we are getting. So this is the growth rate trends of the three sectors in the Telangana economy. Now let us look at the answer. So the question is, explain about the sectoral growth rate trends of Telangana economy. This is also 5 marks question. Okay. Sectoral growth rate trends in Telangana refers to the growth rates of primary, secondary and tertiary sectors over a period of time in the overall GSVA of Telangana State. GSVA, gross state value added. In Telangana, the Directorate of Economics and Statistics estimates the gross state domestic product using product and income methods both at current prices and also at constant prices. The growth rates measured at constant prices is more reliable as it rules out price fluctuations. The constituents of primary, secondary and tertiary sectors include: first one, primary sector. This sector comprises of crops, that is agriculture, livestock, forestry, fishery, etc. B. Secondary sector. This sector includes manufacturing, electricity, gas, water supply, construction, etc. And C. Tertiary sector. The constituents of this sector are trade, hotels, transport of all forms, that is road, railways, air, waterways, storage, communications, etc. Then looking at the annual average sectoral growth rates in GSVA of Telangana State at constant prices. So we are taking the prices of 2011-12. Okay. So I've just mentioned you the 2 years. Try to remember these data. So year 2011-12, primary sector growth rate was 8.6%, which has increased to 10.7% in 2019-20. And secondary sector, which was minus 11.7% in 2011-12, I mean the first year and the last year from the data, minus 11.7% to 1.7%. And tertiary sector is concerned, it has increased slightly from 8.4% in 2011-12 to 9.6%. Those who can remember all those data, the entire table, is very good. Okay, so if it is not possible to remember all the statistical data of all the years, at least try to remember these 2 years. Now, the above table indicates that the first point, the growth rate of primary sector increased from the same thing is given in words. 8.6% in 2011-12 to 10.7% in 2019-20. Secondary sector's growth rate increased from minus 11.7% to 1.7%, and the tertiary sector's growth rate also increased from 8.4% to 9.6% during the same period. Though all the sectors indicate an increase in their respective growth rates, there were ups and downs between 2011-12 and 2019-20, indicating a mixed trend in the growth rates of sectoral GSVA in Telangana State. Okay, so this is the 5 marks answer. Hope you have understood and have understood the concept of what is the meaning of sectoral contribution and what is the meaning of sectoral growth rate trends. Okay, so if you find this video useful, please like, share and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Until my next class, take care. Bye bye.